it's going to get so good that it's going to be beyond the scope of our comprehension. The majority of marketers kind of go with their gut and go in the direction that they feel, is important. So there is going to be a trust factor that is going to have to come with this, that we're going to have to trust these systems, to produce good outcomes.
We talked about how AI, is looking at the cars that you're driving through computer vision and then showing you the advertisements based on that.
AI can produce less advertisements that are more impactful. It's transforming our industry massively.
So let us go back to your journey. Okay. So how did you get into digital marketing and the field of digital transformation? If you could tell us about the journey.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty fascinating one. I was in the United States Navy. I was an industrial electrician in the Navy, and you can see all the gray hairs on my head if you're watching the video. But it was so many years ago that we didn't have the internet back then, and we started to program programmable logic controllers into our equipment. So I started to do a little bit of development back then. Then I left the Navy and went to work for a newspaper, and that was when we really started to, bring fiber in. We newspapers would create these huge, huge files, sometimes hundreds of megabytes or gigabytes for a single page, and so we used to transfer those via satellite, and then we switched to fiber. And there was no IT groups. There was the electricians and the electronics technicians, and so I caught the bug and we started to integrate all of these systems and network them. Started doing a lot of development during that time, and then basically left my electrical career behind and just went full force on the internet. And then database marketing took off. So I started to do a lot more database related work and targeting, and then left the newspaper industry and went full time just doing this work. So I absolutely am addicted to it, and can't new technologies are just incredible challenge to me, and I love taking them on and seeing where they take us.
Wow, that's great. You mentioned database marketing. Would you like to elaborate more on this if we can know, what is database marketing?
Yeah, so even prior to internet marketing, prior to, let's say, email marketing and now text message marketing, direct mail was a really compelling medium and channel for people to advertise in. And so what we used to do back then was we would take our customers' databases, household them. So we would clean the data, identify which household they were in. We would append demographic data to that. And so it might be demographic data about the person, about the family, or about the community. And then we would analyze it to see what were the common traits between those people, and then go and find more of those people. So a parallel today would be Facebook, creating a custom profile in Facebook where you upload your customer list. Facebook appends all of the data, and then you do a match and uh, and 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 um, and advertise to those people. So we were doing that back with direct mail back in the 1990s, and huge databases. The New York Times was a client back then, so we had a national database for the New York Times that was terabytes, which nobody even knew what a terabyte was back then, but we were running these massive, massive databases back then. And so the technology, while it has evolved, and of course computing power and space and cloud has made it more accessible to everybody to be able to do, the process is pretty much the same nowadays.
Was it very challenging to manage terabytes of data back then?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, pretty much it was a manual process. We didn't have customer data platforms that automatically found and matched data. So a lot of it was manual, us writing our own algorithms and cleaning the data ourselves and trying to find matches and building exceptions and everything else. And so you if you had 14 different sources of data, you had to build those tables, and you had to integrate those tables and clean those tables and merge them. And so it was very, very labor intensive, both on the the business intelligent platform side and on the database side.
So let's start with today's topic. It's basically about marketing, integrating it with artificial intelligence. So, my first question to you would be, how would you describe artificial intelligence from a marketer's point of view?
Well, from a marketer's standpoint, the way that I look at artificial intelligence is that it's basically your probability and statistics engine automated. So again, in those old days that we used to take a database and we used to, filter down that data and find these segments that were good targets, we didn't have a real picture of how well they worked. And so we would do test deployments, we would do test campaigns, then we would get the results back 3 weeks later, and based on that testing, we would make adjustments and improvements over time. And so it was a very, very labor intensive. And not only was it labor intensive, it also depended quite a bit on our ability to analyze the data to try to find these segments. So artificial intelligence, what that does, the incredible opportunity for us, it takes out that marketer's bias. It takes out we think this is going to work, or we think that's going to work. And AI basically can take these, massive, massive troves of data and identify for us where that information is and where those targets are. It can automatically test, it can automatically optimize. And so the reason why I love it so much is I think any really good marketer doesn't believe the data when they look at it. But that's not a majority of marketers. So a majority of marketers kind of go with their gut and go in the direction that they feel is important. What AI does is cut that out. If you have very good, clean data with artificial intelligence and you're capturing the results effectively, AI doesn't care about your bias. It's going to tell you, exactly what's going on and what to optimize and how to optimize it. And so I think it's an incredible, incredible tool at our disposal nowadays, and it's really changing. It's transforming our industry massively.
So, now let's talk about the different categories of marketing. But before we enter into that, I want to know from you that what types of marketing campaigns do you think will be influenced with artificial intelligence?
Well, we're seeing everything. I mean, we using generative AI to produce content, produce emails, to optimize subject lines and titles, tagging. We're utilizing AI to analyze what the results are from these campaigns and automatically route people in buyers' journeys to the appropriate next steps. We're seeing AI find these pockets of information in analytics and tell us, hey, here's something that is, out of the ordinary or exceptional. So it's truly changing everything that we're doing right now and assisting. Now, there's a downside to it too. Generative AI, for example, like GPT, it's trained on data that may not be that accurate. And so if you have a source data that lacks, accuracy, then the results can lack accuracy too. And so we've seen that a lot of people complain about, maybe Chat GPT is lying. Well, it's not necessarily lying. It's just that they're updating the algorithms and they're having to, provide cleaner data in it. And so we've done some testing where we've trained our own language model and been very, very concise as far as the data that we're inserting into that model. And the result is that the model is giving us back perfect content and perfect information, and that incorporates all of the elements of the context and language, but the actual data that we're trying to go from. So it's literally changing everything. And I think for any marketer or salesperson out there, if they're not paying attention to this, they might lose their job over it eventually, because this is the next revolution, if you will, and the the abilities for these systems to automatically create campaigns, and like I said, buyer journey steps, and adjust and optimize and test without any human intervention is becoming quickly is becoming the norm.
So when we talk about automated processes, there is always a concern that it might go wrong in some way or the other, and a lot of people fear this. So do you think that there will come a time when we can trust automated processes 100%?
Ooh, that's a good question. I know my son is a data scientist, so he keeps on top of this a lot more than I do. But the fascinating thing that's happening right now, even with OpenAI and Bard and the other ones, is these developers are developing adversarial AI systems, ones that are attacking and tracking and seeing what the other ones are bringing in. So I look, I don't trust marketers 100%. So no, I don't trust AI 100% either. I do think that it is absolutely important for us to verify, trust but verify, the results. Like if I have GPT create an outline for an article, and it definitively states certain things, I still go double check that, and
Yeah.
I still verify that information, because my reputation is on the line, my company's reputation is on the line. That if I let some, like I said, if I let ChatGPT, which may have bad data in it, produce a bad outcome, and I publish it, that's my responsibility, not
That's
the AI's responsibility. So 100%, no, I don't think we'll ever trust it 100%. But I do think that the leaders in this industry are doing a very good job of trying to create an ecosystem where AI is challenged even by AI, because eventually it's going to get so good that it's going to be beyond the scope of our comprehension, which is that's quite scary. But I think recently, just as an example, there was recently they did a test with radiologists analyzing X-rays, and they found that that AI beat the radiologists significantly in detecting different illnesses. The interesting thing was that the radiologists still didn't trust it, and they misdiagnosed some of the issues that AI diagnosed correctly. And so there is going to be a trust factor that is going to have to come with this, that we're going to have to trust these systems, to produce good outcomes. But I still think it needs verified, and those systems are being put into place now.
If we are using artificial intelligence for our work, the work is our responsibility, so we have to be responsible for it. Okay. So now when I first hear about marketing, the best thing is advertisements, at least for me. So if we talk about integrating artificial intelligence into advertisements, it's playing a big role right now. Even computer vision is coming into play. Recently I had a podcast with Sir James Stern, if you know him. he
Yep.
so we talked about how AI is looking at the cars that you're driving through computer vision and then showing you the advertisements based on that. So, talking from your point of view, how do you think that we can maximize our advertisement potential using artificial intelligence?
Well, it's to your point, it's already happening right now. I think there's the industry is definitely showing that personalization and segmentation are key from an advertising standpoint. When engagement, click through rates, conversions. Well, we're a very diverse. Almost everybody has a diverse audience. and it's almost impossible to make those variations to personalize and segment every single advertisement for every single person. I can absolutely do some of that. So I think obviously, generative AI with the titles, call to actions, everything else. But now we're starting to see it with actual graphical design and iterations. That maybe there's if you're advertising to a household with a upper scale, there's an upper scale house in the background, and if you're advertising to somebody with a in a medium size, in a medium income, it's a medium income. And so we're starting to see that's a very, very just incredible use where we can't, humans can't possibly iterate that fast and do those many iterations. So personalization and segmentation are keys. Of course, optimization. So the ability to test, multiple instances, and then based on the statistics and probability, pushing out the optimized versions. That to me is just where humans just can't scale like AI can scale. And so I think advertising is going to be, it's the other side of it is right now we do a lot of blanket advertising. So we do one message and we broadcast it everywhere, and we irritate a lot of people with that, right? A lot of people are tired of seeing ads over and over again, and they're starting to become numb to ads. The opportunity with AI is that because of contextual understanding of the person, the content, the location, the time of day, all of those things, is that AI can produce less advertisements that are more impactful, which I think would be, is a great achievement for us to move forward, because we're starting to become numb to all of it's so cheap to advertise online that everybody just throws everything out there to see what sticks. And AI has a promise where we can be very, very have pinpoint accuracy. Now the other side of it that's fascinating to me. So let's say with Google Ads, right? If Google Ads, you're going to throw an ad out there, a campaign, you're going to run it for months and see what happens. But imagine now if Google, brings Bard into their flow, and so you do a search and then you do a fine tuning, a contextual search, and you say, no, I want a small business that I want to work with, and no, I want them to be 5 miles from my house, and no, I want them to deal with this type of insurance or something like that. Now contextually, imagine those ads that could be run, that could be very, very targeted. Now the pay-per-click might go from $5 a click to $95 a click, but it would be worthwhile. It would be worthwhile to advertise less and to advertise more personalized and segmented advertising. So I'm excited that hopefully, and this is optimistic, but I really hope that it tones down the broadcast advertising and really starts to get intelligent advertising to get the right message in front of the right person at the right time, which is what all marketers should hope for.
Okay, that's great. I want to pause here, not in the sense like pausing the podcast, but there is a term that you mentioned, graphic design. And the thing that really gets crazy for me is that how is AI able to generate an image that we are asking it for in terms of a text? I can understand that okay, I'm giving a prompt to ChatGPT, I'm getting the output. That's because it's trained on the data. But if you could explain in the basic level, how does AI generate images and graphics based on what we ask it for?
Well, it's interesting if you understand AI at its root, it's math and it's distance between points. So when we talk about language models, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about the propensity of a word to be used in association with another word, and so that's why it takes enormous training of these algorithms. It takes tons of data and time to even get to a point where it can understand. But it's still distance. It's still geometric in its, at its core. And so, which is pretty mind blowing when you think about it. But that's what graphic design is as well. And so, you think about, let's say, an Illustrator file with vector images and stuff, all the points, the colors, the strokes, all of those things are mathematical in nature. And so, if you have enough data, so enough source data on imagery, to get different styles of images and graphics and everything else, just like generative AI can produce a sentence for you, generative AI can produce an image for you as well. And they're really good. My son has done a couple of tests with him where he's asked it and it's iterations, right? It's not, hey, produce a background image for this ad that has a high click-through rate. It's not as easy as that. It's right now it's okay, what kind of ideas could you come up with on producing a background image that are common with ads these, like this. And their library has to be millions of ads that they have to be able to, to review with that. But maybe they find, like what I was talking about, they find houses, to put in the background. Then your next thing is, well, I don't like that house. It doesn't really match the style that we, can you use a house that's on a, in a wooded area rather than and you have to iterate through until you find that, that one that you like. But it's pretty fascinating how accurate these are. I keep telling everybody the other one that's scary is, writers, of course, are feeling it right now. I don't know if you saw, but in Hollywood right now they're on strike, that writers do not want production companies to be utilizing AI, because you can take that writer's history. Maybe they wrote 300 movie scripts, and you could produce the next movie without the writer involved. And that's pretty, that is scary for these people to lose their livelihood. On the other side, though, these writers could be utilizing AI to produce 500 scripts a month and start selling them to people. And I think eventually that's what's going to happen even with imagery. I think that actors at some point will say, I'm going to license my image and my history with a movie company and let them produce movies without me ever leaving leaving my house. And I think it's inevitable. If I was an actor and I had a good career, I would absolutely do that. Of course, the next step beyond that is they don't even talk to actors, they just make up actors. So they just make up, people. And we've seen static images of that already, that there's a lot of services out there that can create people and it looks like a absolute real person. Well, if you can create a real person in a photograph, you can create them in a video as well. And so eventually, we're going to have mass produced, it won't be long, that you'll be sitting with your son and your son will be talking to, his Google bot or Alexa and say, write a story to me about lions and use my dad in it. And, and up pops a video and he's going to see the story that he just imagined, so it's fascinating. I don't know how, it's so disruptive that people are very, very scared of it. But I look at it that people that are staying at the leading edge of this will see all of the opportunities for efficiency and enhancement and rapid deployment. And so I think, the Industrial Revolution did this with machinery in our lifetime. AI is this, that we had the internet, obviously, revolution where we went online. But this AI revolution, I think, is going to transform everything so much faster than ever in history. I love it. I think it's going to be amazing, but it is also going to leave a lot of people behind that, their talents are no longer needed. Just like when cars were invented, blacksmiths lost their job. Well, it's the same here too.
Wow. Okay, so we talked about artificial intelligence, we talked about the use cases, everything. But at the end of the day, it is we who are using artificial intelligence. You know, right now in organizations, there, if we talk about on a basic level, there are employees who are not comfortable with artificial intelligence because they don't have the right skills and resources. You had to give them a message to get started into this field of artificial intelligence from, you know, the first step if they would take in the industry, what it would be.
The I started even when I was doing this, um, I started with Chat GPT just because it had, taken off and everything else. But I started with it educating me. And so I asked it, how did you work? How does this happen? What are these things? There's 800 different acronyms in AI. There's all these splits and there's people using it in theoretical physics and there's people using it to develop platforms and so the irony of it is that I use ChatGPT to explain it to me. And so it was my personal teacher. And so if I was talking to anybody and I don't know that I would be there's definitely some good AI newsletters out there, and there's some really great YouTube channels that are describing it. Many of them are above my pay grade, though. They're talking to data scientists that understand these infrastructures and technologies that can be really, really just so complex. When my son talks to me about the work that he's doing, I have to ask him over and over again. I have no idea what you're talking about. You have to dumb it down for me. But the fascinating thing is that you can do that with like ChatGPT. So ask ChatGPT. If you're confused, ask it again, ask it for clarification again. And you would be surprised at how well you can learn AI from AI. I tell this with people with development too. We have a couple of junior developers on our team, and I tell them, have a Bard window open, have a ChatGPT window open, and when you write some code, throw it in there. Ask it why it errored. Ask it to explain the code. Ask it if there's a better way to write the code. And guess what? You'll become a better developer, over time with AI being your teacher. So that would be my advice to everybody is, I don't think you have to have all the add-ins on Chat GPT, and I don't think you have to create an infrastructure. I don't think you have to, unless you want to. But at least if you start utilizing it and asking it how it can help and asking it how it works, it'll educate you and tell you exactly what's happening. And so I think it's an incredible opportunity from a coaching standpoint.
So, concluding this in a single line, learn artificial intelligence from artificial intelligence.
Yes, or be left behind,
Yeah.
honestly. And I do think the other side of this too is I think companies, educators have to be exploring this as opportunity too. I've read online where people have said, you're not I publish for a large publication, and they have told us you cannot use AI. And I've challenged them on that and said, AI is helping me personally write better. Why would you say don't use AI? I'm not saying don't copy and paste. Definitely copying and pasting from AI is horrible. But having AI help me think about my article, think about how I could organize it, maybe some statistics that I could include in it. It's making me a better writer, and it's providing richer content, to my audience. I really think that companies have to stop, put on the brakes, and say, how can we use this? It would be akin to, our children, when calculators came out, making them still do formulas on paper. Look, if make them learn how to use calculators. AI is the same way. It's time for us to start adopting and adapting and learning so that we can stay, above, ahead of this as much as possible until AI takes over and we can't keep up anymore.
So when do you think that it's happening? AI is taking over.
Oh, the singularity. I don't know. It's rapidly approaching. I think there's a lot of stuff. The newest thing with the superconductors. If you haven't read online about superconductors, superconductors can transform everything that we're doing because electrical distribution and computing then almost becomes infinite in its ability to grow, which means infinite means cheap, and so there's not an expense to this. And so when that happens, if that happens, when that happens, which might be in the next few years, even going to be heading into both scary and exciting times where our own imaginations can't keep up with what's going to happen next.
Okay, so now last question and the last advice that we would like to take from you right now. When, because right now there is a hype of entrepreneurship, starting new businesses, because reality shows like Shark Tank and all this have transformed this to a next level. I mean, that's going to happen. But if I'm starting up a business, a small startup, let's say a small startup of selling some sort of products, a product based startup, how can I utilize artificial intelligence in my marketing, keeping in mind that I have less budget?
Yeah. Well, I mean, almost all of these tools are almost free.
Yeah.
And so, that's the fascinating thing. We stopped buying content from writers probably 6 months ago, and we are utilizing GPT to provide us the raw data. Then we use Grammarly and and we rewrite a lot of it and everything else. So we do not copy paste because I don't agree with that, that methodology. But for a business, what I would say is a lot of times as a business, we talk about what we do, but we don't talk about our customers and what they want. Part of marketing is talking to you and understanding you and what you want. Well, that's a perfect opportunity to ask GPT. Say, here's my problem, here's my target audience, here's my solution. How should I craft a landing page or a web page to describe this? And you would be amazed at what comes back. When I do that for people that have had no interaction with AI, they are blown away, absolutely blown away at how accurate and concise, some of those statements are. You could do it with here's a trick that I do all the time. I copy the entire web page. So I copy all of the HTML from the web page, and I ask ChatGPT, provide 3 bullet points, that you find on this, and within seconds it comes back and it says, here's three, and it's always just really, really good. And so that's what I would say is we, as business people, especially small business people and startups, you almost always get in your own way. You think that this is what people think. It's not what people think. And so as marketers, we try to understand better, what does our audience want? What are they looking for? What are they researching? What are they trying to learn? And that's where AI can really help craft that for you.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir, for this amazing time. I hope we had a great fun and a very informative conversation. So thank you so much for the valuable time that you have given us today, and we hope to do this again some other days. So thank you so much.